I distinctly remember the moment. It was a beautiful sunny day, 2 weeks before the start of my final year at the University of Toronto. And I was about to have a conversation that would change my life's path forever. I knew exactly what I was going to say and exactly how I was going to say it. The plan was to use my always the good kid manipulation to somehow convince my parents that what I was about to suggest was a great idea. But none of that preparation could have stopped the sweat bullets coming down my forehead when the phone actually began to ring. And then it happened. Hi, Mom and Dad. It's Genevieve. Hey, how are you guys? Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I've been doing this kind of exercise for a while. It's really interesting to me. There's a training program nearby. I think I want to become a Pilates instructor. Did you hear the silence? So did I. Followed by, Genevieve, what the hell is Pilates? And so I explained a little bit more about what it was, and I corrected their pronunciation quickly. And the end result wasn't exactly as I had anticipated, or perhaps you would either. Not only were they agreeable, they were encouraging, possibly even excited for me to try something new, explore a new passion. In the end, it hardly took any convincing at all. My name is Genevieve DeRose, and I am a girl boss. What's a girl boss anyways? Some of you cringe when you hear those two words put together. But see, here's the thing. That's exactly what I was. It's exactly who I am. At the ripe old age of 22, I took a rather gutsy risk and opened my own business. I put aside 2 degrees in corporate world aspirations to open a Pilates studio in a rather small yet untouched market. Likely to the internalized chagrin of those parents, even though they never vocalized it, who had just invested 4+ years of university tuition into me. A little scary. But I'm not here today to list my accomplishments and successes. That'd be pretty boring. No, I'm here today to make us all think a little bit. Because when I began reflecting on the moments that defined me the most as a young female entrepreneur, I ended up with a million questions. To name a few, what made me me? What made me and still makes me believe I can do anything and be successful? And what makes me think the way I think? Was I born this way? Or was I raised to be this way? Or was it a little bit of both? Nature versus nurture. Studies show that little girls first start to notice gender differences at the age of 6. They begin to associate themselves perhaps with being less intelligent or less brilliant than their boy counterparts. But see, that really never happened to me, truly. It wasn't that I didn't notice that there were differences between me naturally and the boys. It's just that I was keenly aware at a young age that those differences brought alternative things to the table. I certainly never felt any less than the boys. But why? And so, in examining my childhood, I've begun to realize that what I had always thought of as normal in my upbringing was actually extremely unique. I was pretty much born into the business world. My family owned a large, well-known bottling company, and so every single day after school and every single weekend, I could be found running the halls of the office, being mesmerized by the production lines, or hanging out in the warehouses beeping horns. The conference rooms were my playrooms, and my toys, calculators, typewriters, invoices. I had a ton of fun running around bugging all the employees to see what I could do to help them. Doesn't sound like fun to you? Let me tell you what, it was an amazing, amazing experience. I had daily examples of hard work, not just by my family members, but by a slew of employees, both men and women, all integral to the success of this company. Now, over the years, did the women and men have different roles? Absolutely. But they played them very well. Now, my family would agree, I was also born with a pretty highly competitive spirit. And that highly competitive spirit was only enriched, nurtured, and perhaps cultivated even further by my childhood. I have a brother, Eric. He's only 16 months older than me, and he's a genius. And as any annoying little sister would, I wanted to do everything he did, and I wanted to know everything he knew. And so we would walk home from the school bus, and he would be teaching me multiplication tables. I was in first grade. And that sibling rivalry continued. But in hindsight, I now see I always wanted to beat him. Or maybe it's because when I was in grade school, the other smart kid, Stanley, and I would go head-to-head daily with math battles or reading battles. Who was going to finish the project first? Who was going to get the better grade? Or was it my neighborhood? All boys. I was an extremely athletic child, so who was I going to play sports with? The boys. And despite our physical differences, you better believe I found a way to kick the can before them and hit the ball as hard, if not harder than them. And maybe the biggest contributor was my family's influence. I was encouraged. Again, that's probably not strong enough. I was expected to be successful in life from a very young age. Now, I had a loving family, very supportive family, but my family also believed in tough love, discipline, and had extremely high standards. We still joke to this day that I spent more days grounded in high school than I wasn't. And even though we had a lot by the time I was a child, there were no handouts, no shortcuts, and I was expected to pull my weight. The day I was legally allowed to work, I was driven to the mall to fill out job applications. We were required to be polite, behave at all times, and be extremely respectful of all people. We were also required to understand people different from us, other cultures. My grandmother herself was an immigrant. My family sent me to amazing schools where free thinking was made a priority. I always felt a sense of community and safety around me. But even with that safety net, I still faced adversity. As children, we all face adversity. Different types, perhaps, varying degrees. Whether it be we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we don't have as much money as our friends, we came from the wrong neighborhood, or I only have one parent. The list could go on and on and on. My biggest adversity as a child was being bullied. And I'm reminded of one story. It was a particularly difficult experience where for an entire week, the entire class was against me. When I say against me, there were songs against me. There was no one speaking to me. It was pretty bad. All kind of led by a girl I thought was supposed to be my best friend, Angela. So I came home from school crying. And I said to my mom, I explained the story to my mother. And she said, Genevieve, it's okay to have tears. But let's stop crying now. And let's figure out what we're going to do about it. And so I dried my tears, and the plan was to confront Angela, not with words, and not in a physical sense, but with action, the only way I really could. And so the next day, I went to school, and in the lunchroom, which was the hardest place to be for me, I walked away from the entire class and sat on the other side of the lunchroom by myself. That day ended up being way harder than the week before. And I went home crying, probably harder than the night before. And my mother said, Genevieve, keep your courage, keep your strength, and stop crying, and just see what happens. Do it again. And so the next day, I went back, and I crossed the lunchroom and sat by myself again. And you know what happened? 2 girls followed. And within a week, everyone followed. My point is that we need to look at adversity not always as a negative, but as an advantage. It gives us a tough skin. It gives us a shell. It gives us a life lesson that we can one day take with us. All of these factors contributed to me, Genevieve DeRose, being a girl boss. I was privileged enough, in hindsight, not to feel oppressed even when I was. Instead, I was taught to figure it out, survive, figure out a way to win. And so now I stand, many years later, I'm realizing that for me, being a girl boss is much more than just being a successful young female entrepreneur. It is actually my form of activism. Today's political climate is more hypersensitive, polarized, and closed-minded than I can remember. I've been surrounded by women for the past 18 years. And for the first time, I feel like I have to analyze my audience before choosing my words or voicing an opinion. And there have been many situations where I won't even voice my opinion in fears that I'll be attacked. I now know I'm not alone. And I do believe that this is because I am not your traditional, perhaps in-your-face, maybe even vocal feminist. But that doesn't mean I'm not a feminist, and that doesn't mean I'm not extremely pro-woman. I choose, personally, not to dwell on past grievances, but to look at the path in front of me, choosing today, tomorrow, and next week, what can I do? What action can I make to progress women? What I'm saying isn't to take away from the amazing women leaders who've come before me, or the incredible female mentors who are still in my life. The thing is, you all blazed so many of the trails before I arrived. I was lucky. I can't have your experience. We've come quite a ways. We really have. We've come quite a ways since my friend Lauren, who as a youngster showed keen interest in the medical field. Yet her teacher at the time discouraged her from becoming a doctor and tried to push her towards nursing. Lucky for Lauren, she had a great family and they all said, screw it. Guess what? She's a successful MD. We've also come a long way from when my friend Marilyn, she was a young CPA, one of the only in her firm at the time. Marilyn wasn't permitted to eat lunch in the same room as her male counterparts. So again, I can't have their experience and they can't have mine, but we can certainly learn from one another. I choose forward, goal-based action in my activism. I choose proudly to be a female business owner who educates, trains, and employs other women, which will instill confidence in them and it fosters their growth. I choose to listen to women, learn from women, understand women. I choose to mentor women. In the past 16 years of owning my business, more than 20 women have crossed the threshold looking for opportunity. These women have been from various age groups and various walks of life, but opportunity I give them. Certainly some of them are works in progress, but you better believe I stick by their side until we gain success. Others progress quickly and move on. But all of these women are my masterpieces. You know, we have Anjali, who came to me as a young college student. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know what she wanted to do. Anjali is now in New York City. She's also an MD. Or we have Martha, who came to me. She was teaching yoga here and there. Again, she didn't really have any direction at all. She was spinning. Martha's a chiropractor. And then we have Kelly. Kelly had a BFA and no job. Kelly is now a doctor of physical therapy. But perhaps, for me, my proudest accomplishment is Lynn, who 15 years ago walked in my door and is still next to me, doing my job as well as I do. No matter our identifying group, whether that be our gender, our age, our race, our culture, our religion, our sexual orientation, life's playing field is never going to be level. There's peaks, there's valleys, there's forests, there's rivers, there's mud, there's muck. Sometimes we're the high ones, sometimes we're the low ones. And within each of these obstacles, there's inequality. And with this inequality, if it means I or you have to try harder maybe than someone else to succeed, so be it. Challenge us. The partnering adversity, let's conquer it. Let's learn something, let's experience. Let's not whine about it, right? Let's do. We as women have the tools to vary the landscape. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us, someone to light that inner fire, someone to awaken our confidence. All of us can only have one true experiential perspective. That's our own. I can't give you my childhood or my family. You can't give me yours. But together we're stronger. Together we learn. And so it's our job to share our experiences, our own life lessons, our perspectives, our ideas, and our hopes and our dreams, and understand one another. That's what we need to do in order to guide women and girls to success. Guide them in their journey to beating the odds. And that, my friends, is being a girl boss. Thank you.